How Bees and Flowers Got Their Collaborative Relationship by Chantel Hall. There once was a little bee who lived in a colony with the rest of his family. The little bee's family had recently run out of food, and it was the little bee's job to find them more food. When the little bee heard it was his job to feed the rest of his colony, he tried as hard as he could to think of a food that would be sweet enough to feed all of his little brothers and sisters. It was no use, though. The little bee couldn't think of anything. Finally, after flying around all day looking for anything to feed his family, he decided to land on a stem and cry. As he sat there crying, he saw a flower lean over and watch him. "What's the matter, little bee?" asked the flower. The bee replied, "I can't find a food good enough to feed my family," said the bee. The flower paused a minute, then said, "Well, I have pollen that is sweet, and you could have some," said the flower, "if you can help me." "Well, that sounds great," said the bee, "but what do you need from me?" The flower replied, "You can have some of my pollen if you will also bring some of my pollen to the other flowers so that my family will be able to survive and thrive too." The bee thought to himself for a minute, then replied, "Of course I can do that. Thank you so much, flower." So the flower opened up its petals and let the bee have some pollen. "This pollen is perfect to feed my family," thought the bee. The bee then flew to the next flower, and this flower was so happy when the bee told her about what the first flower had told the bee. This flower too gave the bee some pollen and told the bee to bring some of it to the other flowers, and the bee happily did so. After repeating this process several times, the bee flew home and showed his family all the pollen he got. His family was so happy that they all hugged him and danced. The next day, all the bees went out with the little bee to get pollen from the flowers and to help spread it to the other flowers. When the flowers saw all the bees coming, they were so happy. It was clear that a new forest friendship had developed.